was floated in the center of his personal research chamber, a space that defied conventional physics. No walls existed here, only an endless white expanse that stretched into infinity. Crystalline devices hovered around him in a perfect circle, each one pulsing with soft blue light. The angel's staff rested against his shoulder as he manipulated streams of raw energy that danced between the instruments like living threads. "Fascinating, he murmured, watching the energy patterns shift and swirl. "The resonance between dimensional frequencies is far more volatile than I calculated." He was testing something new. Something even Beerus didn't know about yet. Multi-universal energy synchronization. The theory was simple enough if one could map the harmonic frequencies of neighboring universes, travel between them. Might become as effortless as stepping through a door. Of course, the practice proved considerably more complex. One wrong calculation and the resulting dimensional tear could destabilize an entire reality. Whis adjusted a floating dial with his fingertip. The blue light intensified, forming a sphere of concentrated power no larger than an apple. Inside that sphere, countless universes brushed against each other, separated by barriers thinner than thought itself. "Almost there," he said. "Just need to stabilize the western quadrant and—" "Hey, Whis, what you doing?" The angel's eyes widened. That voice. That incredibly familiar, incredibly untimely voice. Goku materialized behind him. Through instant transmission, his trademark orange gi bright against the white void. His black hair stuck up in its usual wild pattern, and his face carried that expression of pure childlike curiosity that had gotten him into trouble more times than anyone could count. "Goku," Whis said, his tone carefully controlled. "This is a delicate experiment. Perhaps you could—" "Whoa, cool." Goku leaned forward, peering at the glowing sphere. "Is this one of those science things you're always talking about? What does this button do?" He reached out toward a floating crystal that pulsed with particularly intense energy. "Don't touch that," Whis said, but his warning came a fraction of a second too late. Goku's finger pressed against the crystal. The effect was immediate. The sphere of contained energy erupted outward in a cascade of blinding light. The crystalline devices shattered their fragments, dissolving into pure energy that fed back into the expanding reaction. Whis moved with divine speed, his staff flashing as he tried to contain the breach. But even angelic reflexes couldn't fully compensate for Goku's talent for chaos. A tear opened in the fabric of space itself. Not a clean portal like Whis could create, but a ragged wound in reality that pulled at everything nearby. The edges crackled with unstable energy colors that shouldn't exist, bleeding through from somewhere else, somewhere other. "Oops," Goku said. The suction grew stronger. Whis planted his staff and anchored himself, his power wrapping around his form like an invisible shield. But Goku, surprised and off balance, stumbled forward. His feet left the ground as the dimensional tear pulled him toward its center. "Whis!" Goku shouted, reaching back. The angel extended his hand, but the distance grew too quickly. Goku tumbled through the air, his body spinning as the tear swallowed him whole. For just a moment, Whis saw him silhouetted against impossible colors, and then he was gone. The tear sealed itself with a sound like thunder played backward. The white void fell silent. A few sparkles of residual energy drifted through the space like snow, the only evidence that anything had happened at all. Whis lowered his staff. He looked at the spot where his equipment had been, then at the place where Goku had disappeared. He sighed a sound of such profound exhaustion that it seemed to echo through the endless white. "Well then," he said to the empty air. Lord Beerus is going to be rather upset about this. He tapped his staff against the ground and began calculations. Locating Goku across dimensional barriers would take time. Retrieving him safely would take even longer. In the meantime, the Saiyan was entirely on his own in whatever universe he'd fallen into. Was hoped for everyone's sake that it wasn't anything too fragile. Somewhere else, somewhere other, Goku tumbled through a tunnel of light and color that burned at the edges of his vision. He couldn't sense any Kai signatures, couldn't find anything to lock onto with instant transmission. The fall seemed to last forever, and no time at all. Then, with no warning whatsoever, he burst through into open air above a city he'd never seen before. Buildings stretched out below him, many of them damaged or partially collapsed. The sky was the wrong shade of blue. The sun sat at the wrong angle in the heavens. Uh-oh, Goku said right before gravity remembered he existed. He began to fall, picking up speed as he plummeted toward the unfamiliar city below. In the streets far beneath him, something moved. Something metallic caught the sunlight and flashed. And somewhere in that direction, a battle was already underway, though Goku didn't know it yet. He did what he always did when faced with the unknown. He grinned, crossed his arms, and decided to see what would happen next. The city of Z rushed up to meet him, and a new chapter in 2 universes began with a Saiyan's fall from the sky. Genos had been tracking the dragon-level threat for 17 minutes. The creature stood 3 stories tall, its body a mass of writhing tentacles and chitinous armor that gleamed like oil slicks in the afternoon sun. It had already destroyed 2 city blocks, and from the way it was positioning itself, the cyborg calculated it would reach the eastern residential district in approximately 8 minutes. Unacceptable. Incineration cannon, Genos announced, his arms transforming into gleaming weapons. Twin jets of superheated plasma erupted from his palms, each one hot enough to melt steel. The blasts struck the monster dead center, wreathing it in flames that roared like a furnace. The creature screamed. When the fire cleared, its armor had cracked in several places, oozing a purple fluid that hissed when it hit the pavement. Good. Structural damage confirmed. Genos adjusted his trajectory calculations and prepared a follow-up strike. That's when the sky cracked open, not metaphorically. The air itself split apart with a sound like breaking glass amplified 1,000 times. A rift of impossible colors appeared directly above the battlefield, and something fell through. Something humanoid. Something that was plummeting toward the earth at terminal velocity, with its arms crossed and a smile on its face. Genos' sensors went haywire. His optical analyzers tried to lock onto the falling figure, tried to identify it, tried to measure its energy signature. Every system returned the same result. Error. Unknown. Does not compute. The figure hit the ground between Genos and the monster. The impact should have killed anything human. Should have created a crater, sent shockwaves rippling through the concrete, maybe even leveled the surrounding buildings. Instead, the stranger simply landed in a crouch, dust puffing up around his feet. He straightened, brushing off his orange clothing, completely unbothered by a fall that would have destroyed a tank. Genos stared. His combat processors struggled to categorize the threat. The stranger wore some kind of martial arts uniform, orange and blue, with a symbol on the chest that matched no known organization. Black hair that defied gravity. A tail wrapped around his waist like a belt. Wait. A tail? Wow! The stranger said, looking around with wide eyes. This place looks rough. Hey, you okay? He was talking to Genos. The cyborg's hand cannons were still primed, still aimed at where the monster had been standing. Now the creature was backing away, its multiple eyes fixed on the newcomer with what might have been uncertainty. "Identify yourself," Genos demanded. "Are you affiliated with the monster? Your energy signature is unreadable. Explain your purpose immediately." The stranger tilted his head, confused. "Monster? Oh, you mean that big guy?" He turned to look at the dragon-level threat which had started to charge. "Is he with you?" "He is the enemy," Genos said. "Cool." The stranger's face lit up with genuine excitement. "So we're gonna fight him together. I was hoping to find some strong people here." The monster's tentacle lashed out, moving faster than a bullet train. It was aimed at Genos, but the stranger moved. One moment he was standing 5 feet away. The next, he had intercepted the attack, catching the tentacle with one hand. The impact should have torn his arm off. Instead, the tentacle stopped dead, and the monster's entire body jerked to a halt. Genos' processors nearly overheated trying to analyze what he'd just witnessed. The speed, the casual strength, the complete absence of any discernible energy signature. This didn't follow any known parameters for human capability or monster capability or any capability his databanks contained. "Huh," the stranger said, examining the tentacle he'd caught. "You're pretty strong. This is going to be fun." He released the tentacle and took a fighting stance that Genos' martial arts database immediately flagged as extremely refined. Centuries-old techniques executed with perfect form, but mixed with something else, something that made no sense in any combat system Earth had ever developed. The monster roared and attacked with everything it had. Tentacles whipped through the air like thunder. The stranger dodged, weaved, and laughed. Actually laughed. He moved like water, like light, like something that existed outside the normal flow of time. Not one attack came close to hitting him. "Your turn," the stranger called out cheerfully. Genos didn't need to be told twice. He engaged his thrusters and launched forward, arms reconfiguring for close combat. The monster was distracted off balance. Perfect opportunity for a coordinated strike. He aimed for the exposed section of armor his earlier attack had damaged. The stranger moved at the same time, throwing a punch that looked casual, almost lazy. His fist connected with the monster's central mass. The creature exploded. Not metaphorically. Its entire body burst apart like a water balloon, chunks of organic matter scattering across 3 city blocks. The shockwave from the punch alone shattered windows in buildings 2 streets over. Genos was thrown backward, his stabilizers struggling to compensate. When his systems recalibrated, the stranger was standing in the center of the destruction, looking slightly embarrassed. "Oops," he said. "I think I hit him too hard. Was he a friend of yours?" "No," Genos said slowly. His mind was racing, processors working overtime. "That was a dragon-level threat. You destroyed it with a single punch." "Dragon level is that strong?" The stranger scratched his head. "Sorry, I'm kind of new around here." "Oh." He perked up suddenly. "My name's Goku. What's yours?" "Genos." The cyborg's weapons were still deployed, but he wasn't sure what good they would do. "You are not registered with the Hero Association. Your power level exceeds measurable parameters. I need to understand what you are." "What I am?" Goku looked confused. "I'm a Saiyan. Well, I'm from Earth, but I'm technically a Saiyan. It's complicated." He looked at Genos more carefully, his eyes widening. "Whoa, you're made of metal. That's so cool. Are you a robot?" "I am a cyborg," Genos corrected. "And you're avoiding my questions. Where did you come from? That portal in the sky, was that your doing?" "Portal?" Goku looked up, but the rift had sealed itself. Oh man, that's how I got here. Whis is gonna be so mad. I kinda pushed a button I wasn't supposed to push. It's fine though. Whis always finds me eventually. I just need to stay put long enough for him to lock onto my energy. He laughed, completely unbothered by the fact that he'd apparently fallen through dimensions. Do you know how I can get back? Genos didn't answer. His sensors had picked up something new. Multiple drone units, Hero Association surveillance models converging on their location. They'd been filming. They'd captured everything. This stranger, this Goku, had just been recorded destroying a dragon-level threat with less effort than it took most S-class heroes to defeat a tiger-level monster. "You're strong," Goku said suddenly, his demeanor shifting. The cheerful confusion vanished, replaced by something intense, something focused. "I can tell. Want to spar? Just a quick match. I promise I'll hold back." "Spar," Genos repeated. His combat algorithms were screaming warnings. Unknown entity, unmeasurable power, potential threat level catastrophic. "You want to fight me now?" "Yeah, it'll be fun." Goku bounced on his feet, energy practically radiating off him, despite the fact that Genos' sensors still read nothing. "Come on, just a little one. I won't even transform or anything." This was insane. This violated every protocol Genos had. But his programming also included adaptability, learning through combat experience, and analysis of superior opponents. If this Goku was as strong as preliminary data suggested, studying his techniques could prove invaluable. "Fine," Genos said. "But if you pose a threat to civilians, I will not hold back." "Deal." Goku's grin was infectious. "Ready, go." He moved. Genos saw it coming, predicted the angle of attack, adjusted his defensive posture. It didn't matter. Goku's fist stopped 1 millimeter from his chest, held there with perfect control. The air pressure alone from the stopped punch dented the cyborg's armor. "You're fast," Goku said approvingly. "You saw that coming, didn't you?" Genos countered with a palm strike that could shatter concrete. Goku leaned back, letting it pass by his face with casual ease. They exchanged blows, or rather Genos attacked, and Goku dodged, each movement precise and minimal. The Saiyan wasn't even sweating. Okay, Goku said, laughing as he caught both of Genos' hands mid-strike. "That's enough. You're good, but you're holding back too much. Next time, go all out from the start." He released Genos and stepped back. The cyborg's internal temperature had risen 3 degrees from the brief exchange. His systems were overwhelmed with data, with questions with readings that made no sense. Above them, the Hero Association drones circled like mechanical vultures, their cameras capturing everything. In a monitoring room across the city, emergency meetings were being called. Alerts were being sent to every S-class hero in range. Because something new had arrived in their world, something that didn't fit any category they'd ever created. And that something was currently asking Genos where he could find a good place to eat. "I'm starving," Goku said. "You know anywhere that serves a lot of food? Like a lot? Genos stared at him. Somehow, impossibly, this was his life now. "I need to make a report," he said finally. "You're coming with me?" "Sure," Goku agreed easily. "As long as there's food involved, I'm in." The Hero Association was about to have a very interesting day. The emergency meeting convened in under 3 minutes, which had to be some kind of record. The Hero Association headquarters occupied 40 floors of reinforced steel and concrete in the heart of A City. Most of the building served administrative purposes, but the top floor belonged to the Executive Council. A circular room with walls made entirely of screens, each one displaying data feed. threat assessments, and live footage from every corner of the continent. Right now, every screen showed the same thing. A man in orange, a dragon-level threat exploding like a party balloon, and combat footage that made absolutely no sense whatsoever. "Play it again," said Sekingar, the association's strategic coordinator. His tie was loose, his collar unbuttoned. He'd been in the middle of lunch when the alert came through. The footage replayed for the 7th time. The figure falling from the sky. The casual landing. The single punch that vaporized a monster that should have required multiple S-class heroes to defeat. And then impossibly a sparring match with Genos that looked more like a training exercise than a fight between unknowns. "Energy signature?" someone asked. "None." The technician's voice cracked slightly. "Every scanner reads 0. It's like he doesn't exist, but we're watching him exist right now." Threat assessment. The system crashed 3 times trying to calculate it. The highest reading we got before the algorithm gave up was catastrophic evacuate hemisphere. Silence filled the room. Someone coughed. The screens continued their loop, showing Goku's cheerful face as he asked Genos about food. "He's smiling," another councilman observed. "After destroying a dragon-level threat, he's asking about restaurants. Is he a monster?" This question came from Narinki, one of the association's primary financiers. Some kind of shapeshifter, a new god-level entity. Genos doesn't think so. Sekingar pulled up a preliminary report that the cyborg had transmitted en route to headquarters. According to his analysis, the subject displays no malicious intent. Appears confused about his location. Claims to have arrived accidentally through some kind of dimensional accident. Dimensional accident? Someone repeated flatly. "That's not a thing. That can't be a thing. We have footage of him falling out of a spatial rift. So it's a thing now. Great. Wonderful. My blood pressure medication just became insufficient." Sekingar rubbed his temples. "The immediate question is, what do we do with him?" "He's en route here now with Genos. ETA 12 minutes. We need a decision before he arrives." "Neutralize him," said one voice. "With what?" another countered. "He one-shot a dragon-level threat. We'd need to deploy our entire S-class roster, and even then, we don't know that. Maybe he got lucky. Maybe the monster was weak. The monster leveled 2 city blocks before he arrived." More silence. On the screens, Goku laughed at something Genos said. The cyborg looked deeply uncomfortable, which was impressive given his usual stoic demeanor. "I say we recruit him." This came from McCoy, the association's public relations director. "Look at the optics. Unknown hero arrives, saves the day, poses no threat. The public will eat it up. Our approval ratings have been down since the Guru incident. This could be exactly what we need. You want to recruit someone we can't measure, can't categorize, and don't understand. I want to recruit someone who can kill dragon-level threats with one punch," McCoy corrected. "Whether we understand him or not becomes secondary to the fact that he's demonstrably the most powerful individual we've ever encountered." "That's insane." "Is it? Let me ask you this. Would you rather have him working with us or working against us, or worse, not working at all while threats keep emerging that we can barely handle?" That landed. Everyone in the room knew the statistics. Monster appearances were increasing. The frequency of demon and dragon-level threats had tripled in the past 2 years. The S-class roster was stretched thin and even with heroes like Tatsumaki and King. They were barely keeping ahead of the curve, and now someone appears who makes dragon-level threats look trivial. "We'd need to classify him," Sekingar said slowly. "If we're bringing him in, we need a designation. S-class, obviously, but where Above King, someone suggested. King is rank 7. Are we seriously suggesting this unknown entity jump straight to the top 6 S-class positions? Look at the footage again and tell me he doesn't deserve it. They looked. Goku caught a tentacle moving faster than bullets. Goku dodged attacks without apparent effort. Goku held back enough in the spar with Genos that the cyborg's armor only dented instead of disintegrating completely. Special classification, McCoy said. S-class special designation. We bring him in, assess him properly, and decide on permanent ranking later. Call it an emergency recruitment. The S-class heroes will have opinions about this, someone warned. Tatsumaki especially. She doesn't like unknowns. Tatsumaki doesn't like anyone, McCoy countered. That's not new. Sekingar pulled up another screen, this one showing the current locations of all S-class heroes. Tatsumaki was in B City. Bang was at his dojo. King was according to the tracker at home. Several others were scattered across the continent on various missions or personal time. Send the alert, Sekingar decided. All available BS-class heroes to headquarters immediately. We brief them, we bring in the subject, and we make a decision as a unified front. This is too big to handle through normal channels. What if he refuses to join? Everyone looked at each other. That was an uncomfortable question. What if this impossibly powerful being simply said no and walked away? They couldn't stop him. They probably couldn't track him. And they definitely couldn't force him to do anything. Then we hope he's friendly, Sekingar said finally. And we hope that whatever threats emerge in the future, he decides to help anyway. The meeting dispersed quickly after that. Alerts went out across the network. S-class heroes began receiving urgent summons to return to headquarters. The public relations team started drafting statements in case the media caught wind of what was happening. And in the security office, personnel began preparing the visitor protocols for someone who might be the most dangerous entity to ever voluntarily walk through their front door. On the screens, Genos and Goku continued their journey toward the building. The cyborg looked tense. The stranger looked like he was having the time of his life pointing at buildings and asking questions about everything they passed. Sir, one of the technicians spoke up. The other sensors are picking up something strange. Strange how? The spatial rift where he entered. It's not completely closed. There's residual energy and it's fluctuating, like something's trying to follow the same path. Sekingar's stomach dropped. Is it another entity like him? We can't tell. The readings are unstable. Could be nothing. Could be a delayed reaction from the initial breach. Could be... Monitor it, Sekingar interrupted. Constant surveillance. If anything else comes through that rift, I want to know immediately. And pray to whatever gods are listening that we only have to deal with one impossibility at a time. The technician nodded and returned to his station. Around the room, people tried very hard not to imagine what would happen if multiple entities with that kind of power started appearing. Sekingar looked at the countdown timer. 10 minutes until arrival. 10 minutes to prepare for a conversation with someone who could probably level the entire building if he felt like it. He really needed that blood pressure medication after all. The training facility occupied the entire third basement level of Hero Association headquarters. Reinforced walls, impact-absorbing floors, and enough safety protocols to survive a small nuclear detonation. It had been designed to handle the most destructive S-class heroes during evaluation tests. It was about to get its first real challenge. Bang arrived first, which surprised nobody. The old master moved with the quiet grace of someone who'd spent 70 years perfecting the art of motion. His white hair was tied back, and he wore his familiar black martial arts uniform. When he entered the observation room overlooking the training floor, his eyes went immediately to the figure standing in the center of the arena. Goku was stretching. Not nervously, not with any particular focus. He just seemed to be working out kinks in his shoulders while looking around with open curiosity at all the equipment and sensors. "That's him?" Bang asked quietly. Sekingar nodded. He stood behind a control panel that monitored everything from air pressure to gravitational fluctuations. "That's him. Genos vouches for his non-hostility, but we need proper assessment before making any formal decisions." "And you want me to test him? You're the closest thing we have to an expert on hand-to-hand combat at the highest level. If anyone can get a read on his techniques, it's you." Bang studied Goku through the reinforced glass. The stranger moved with an ease that reminded the old master of water flowing downhill. Natural, unforced. Every shift of weight perfectly balanced, every motion economical. This was someone who'd trained for a very, very long time. "He doesn't feel dangerous," Bang said after a moment. "Neither does a sleeping tiger." "No, I mean his intent. There's no aggression in his stance, no tension. He's relaxed to the point of being casual, but watch his positioning. He's automatically maintaining optimal defensive spacing even while distracted. That's not something you can fake. That's muscle memory from a lifetime of combat." The door to the observation room hissed open. Tatsumaki floated in because walking was apparently beneath her. The petite Esper wore her usual black dress, and her green hair seemed to move in a breeze that didn't exist. Her eyes, also green, narrowed immediately when she saw Goku below. "That's the anomaly?" Her voice dripped with disdain. "He looks ordinary." "The footage suggests otherwise," Sekingar replied carefully. Tatsumaki was powerful, essential, and absolutely exhausting to deal with on her best days. "I'll read him." She raised one hand, psychic power beginning to shimmer in the air around her. "Let me just..." Her power hit Goku like a spotlight. The Saiyan paused mid-stretch, looked up toward the observation room, and waved cheerfully. Tatsumaki's eyes widened, then narrowed, then widened again. "What?" she said slowly. "Is he?" "We were hoping you could tell us." "I can't read anything. It's like he's not there. No worse than that. It's like he's actively blank. A void where a person should be." She pushed harder, her power intensifying until the air in the observation room started to crackle. "Nothing. I'm getting nothing." "Can you move him?" Tatsumaki's response was to try. Her power wrapped around Goku like invisible hands, attempting to lift him off the ground. The Saiyan blinked, looked down at his feet, then back up at the window. "Oh, is this part of the test?" he called out. His voice carried perfectly through the reinforced glass, which shouldn't have been possible. "Are you trying to move me? It tickles." He didn't budge, not even slightly. Tatsumaki's aura flared brighter, power building until the lights in the observation room flickered. Goku remained planted on the floor, now actively confused about what was happening. "Want me to jump?" he offered helpfully. "Would that make it easier?" Tatsumaki released her power with a sound like a sharp exhale. "I want to fight him." "No," Sekingar said immediately. "Why not?" "Because if you fight him seriously, we won't have a training facility anymore, or possibly a building." The Esper crossed her arms, floating higher in evident frustration. Bang watched this exchange with the faint smile of someone who'd seen countless young fighters encounter something beyond their understanding. "Let me go down," the old master said. "A friendly match." No powers, no destruction, just technique. Sekindar hesitated, then nodded. Keep it controlled. We're assessing, not trying to start a war. Bang made his way down to the training floor. Goku brightened visibly when he saw the old man approaching, apparently delighted by the prospect of a new sparring partner. Hey, Goku called out. You here to fight? You look really strong. I'm here to exchange techniques. Bang corrected gently, falling into his ready stance. The flowing posture of water stream rock smashing fist, refined over decades into something approaching perfection. Let's see what you can do. Awesome. Goku dropped into his own stance. It was nothing Bang recognized, yet everything about it was fundamentally sound. Weight distributed perfectly. Guard up but not rigid. Ready to move in any direction with equal ease. I'll try to hold back. Bang moved first, launching a testing strike. Not his full speed, but fast enough to challenge most opponents. His fist cut through the air toward Goku's center mass. Goku swayed aside, didn't block, didn't dodge dramatically. Just moved the minimum distance necessary to let the attack pass by. His counter came immediately, a light palm strike aimed at Bang's shoulder. The old master deflected it, redirecting the force with his own technique. They separated, circled, came together again. This time Bang increased his speed, throwing a combination that had once earned him his hero ranking. Precision strikes targeting pressure points, each one flowing into the next, like water. Goku blocked 3, dodged 2, and caught the last one between his palms. He held Bang's fist there for a moment, examining the technique with genuine fascination. That's really cool, Goku said. Your style is super fluid. It's like you're always moving even when you're standing still. And your style, Bang replied, slightly winded, is chaos given structure. I can't predict your next move because you don't seem to plan them. Oh, I don't really plan much in fights. I just kind of react to what feels right. They separated again. Bang's respect for this stranger increased substantially. Instinctive combat at that level required not just talent, but experience against countless opponents. This was no amateur who'd stumbled into power. Your turn, Bang said. Show me what you can do. Goku's expression shifted. Still friendly, still open, but with an intensity that hadn't been there before. Okay. But tell me if I'm going too fast. He moved. Bang had fought fast opponents before. Flashy Flash, when the assassin bothered to show up, could move faster than most people could track. But Goku's speed wasn't about raw velocity. It was about efficiency. He covered the distance between them in what looked like 2 steps, but felt like none, his fist already extending toward Bang's guard. The old master blocked on pure instinct. The impact sent vibrations up his arm that made his bones ache, not from excessive force, from perfect force. Exactly enough to test his defense without overwhelming it. They traded blows. Goku would strike, Bang would deflect, counters would flow into counters until both men were moving in a rhythm that looked almost choreographed. The sensors around the room went crazy, trying to track it all. In the observation room, Tatsumaki watched with grudging interest. He's not even trying. What? Sekindar looked up from the readouts. The anomaly. He's holding back so much I can barely stand it. Every strike he throws is measured. Every movement is controlled. He's sparring with Bang like an adult plays with a child. Bang is one of our top S-class heroes. And that thing down there is something else entirely. She turned away from the window. Put me on the schedule. I'm testing him next. Absolutely not. Then I'll do it without permission. Sekindar pinched the bridge of his nose. This was going exactly as well as he'd feared. On the training floor, Bang and Goku separated for the last time. The old master was breathing hard sweat on his brow. Goku looked like he'd just finished a light warm-up. "That was great," Goku said, genuine enthusiasm in his voice. "Your technique is amazing. Where'd you learn to fight like that?" 70 years of practice," Bang replied, catching his breath. "And you?" "Oh, lots of places. Different teachers, different planets, lots of really strong guys who kicked my butt until I got better." He said it so casually, as if training on other planets was the most normal thing in the world. "Want to go again? I can show you some of my techniques if you want." Bang smiled, recognizing kindness when he saw it. This being whatever he was meant no harm. He was simply someone who loved martial arts and wanted to share that joy with others. "Perhaps another time," Bang said. "I think I've learned what I needed to know." He looked up at the observation window and nodded once. The assessment was clear. Goku was dangerous, yes. Unimaginably powerful, certainly. But not a threat. Not unless someone was foolish enough to make him one. In the observation room, Sekingar made a decision that would change everything. "Bring him up," he said. We're making this official." Tatsumaki's smile was sharp and anticipating. "Good, because I'm going next." This was going to be a very long day. The alert came at 2:47 a.m., 3 hours after Goku had finally been given temporary quarters in the Hero Association building and told to rest. He was predictably not resting. He was doing one-handed push-ups and wondering if the cafeteria stayed open all night. Across the continent, in the ruins of what used to be G-City's industrial district, reality began to tear itself apart for the second time that day. The technician on night watch saw it first. A spike in dimensional energy readings originating from the exact coordinates where Goku had emerged earlier. The residual rift, the one they'd been monitoring since the initial breach, suddenly flared with activity. "Sir," the technician's voice cracked over the emergency channel. "The anomaly. It's expanding." Sekingar was back in the command center in under 5 minutes, his shirt untucked and his eyes bleary. The screen showed the same industrial district, now lit by an eerie purple glow that pulsed like a heartbeat. "Scale," he demanded. "Bigger than the first breach, much bigger. And something's coming through." On the main display, the rift widened. Space folded in on itself, creating patterns that hurt to look at directly. And then, with a sound like reality screaming, something emerged. It wasn't humanoid. Not at first glance. The entity that pushed through the dimensional tear looked organic and mechanical simultaneously, as if someone had built a creature from living crystal and taught it to hate. It stood roughly 12 feet tall, its body composed of shifting geometric shapes that reflected light, in colors that shouldn't exist. Where it touched the ground, the concrete began to dissolve. "Status." Sekingar's voice was remarkably steady, given that he was watching an alien entity materialize in the middle of a major city. "Energy readings are off the scale. Higher than anything we've recorded, except..." The technician paused. "Except the first anomaly, the one we designated as the Saiyan." "Is it related to him?" "Unknown. But the energy signature is similar. Not identical, but definitely from the same source dimension." The entity which Hero Association computers would soon designate as Astraloid took its first steps in the OPM universe. Each footfall left behind patches of ground that looked like they'd aged 1,000 years in seconds. It moved toward the city center with purpose, its crystalline head swiveling as if searching for something. "Deploy S-Class heroes," Sekingar ordered. All available units to G-City immediately. Threat level. He paused, watching the creature dissolve the abandoned vehicle simply by walking past it. Threat level God. This is not a drill. The alerts went out. Across the continent, S-class heroes received emergency summons. Most were already awake, having been briefed on the Goku situation hours earlier. Now they were being told something worse had arrived. Genos received the alert in his quarters and was airborne in under 30 seconds. Tatsumaki left her apartment without bothering to change out of her night clothes, her psychic aura flaring bright enough to wake her neighbors. Bang dressed methodically, his old hand steady despite the threat assessment. King received the alert and immediately felt his heart rate triple the familiar engine-like sound starting up in his chest. And in his temporary room, Goku felt it. Not through technology or energy scanners, but through that sixth sense that warriors develop after enough battles. Something had arrived, something that made the air taste different, made his instincts prickle with warning. He was out the window and flying toward G-City before anyone could stop him. Astraloid reached the city's edge and paused. Its form rippled shapes rearranging themselves as it processed its new environment. It had followed the dimensional signature of the Saiyan's transit drawn through the unstable rift by the residual energy. But this universe felt different. Wrong. The energy here was thin, weak. Not like the rich, ki-saturated environment of Universe 7. It needed to feed, needed to grow, needed to evolve. The entity's surface began to pulse with that same purple light. Energy tendrils extended from its body, invisible to normal sight, but devastating in effect. They reached out toward the city, toward the sleeping residents, toward anything with life force to consume. The first victim was a stray dog. The tendril touched it, and the animal's life force drained in seconds. The dog collapsed, aged to dust in moments. The tendril pulsed brighter. Then came the people. A homeless man sleeping in an alley, a late shift worker heading home, a young couple returning from a date. The tendrils found them all, and Astraloid grew. Its body expanded, gained definition, became more solid. The geometric patterns on its surface began to glow with accumulated energy. By the time the first hero arrived, it had consumed 17 lives and grown to 15 feet tall. Genos came in fast, his sensors already analyzing the threat. The readings made no sense. The entity registered as both organic and inorganic, both present and somehow phased slightly out of normal space. Its energy signature fluctuated wildly, climbing higher with each passing second. Unidentified entity, Genos announced, his voice amplified and commanding. You are in violation of Hero Association protected territory. Cease hostile action immediately or face neutralization. Astraloid's head swiveled toward him. It had no visible eyes, no obvious sensory organs, yet Genos felt its attention like a physical weight. The creature made a sound. Not words, not even a roar. Just a vibration that resonated in Genos' chassis and made his targeting systems glitch. Then it attacked. The energy tendrils that had been feeding passively suddenly lashed out with predatory speed. Genos dodged thrusters firing to put distance between himself and those deadly appendages. Where they passed through the air, reality seemed to blur. Incineration cannon. Genos' palms reconfigured, unleashing twin streams of superheated plasma. The blasts hit Astraloid dead center, engulfing it in flames hot enough to melt steel. The creature walked through the fire without slowing down. Tatsumaki arrived in a storm of psychic energy. She saw Genos' attack fail, saw the entity advancing, and immediately went for overwhelming force. Her power wrapped around Astraloid like invisible chains, attempting to crush it, to contain it, to stop its advance through sheer telekinetic pressure. For a moment it worked. The entity slowed its form, compressing under the psychic assault. Then its surface flared with that purple light again, and Tatsumaki felt her power slide off it, like water off glass. What the hell? She pushed harder, veins standing out on her forehead. The air around her shimmered with the intensity of her effort. Buildings nearby began to crack from the pressure. It's not working. My power isn't working. Bang arrived next, moving with elderly grace that belied his speed. He assessed the situation in seconds. Genos' energy attacks proved ineffective. Tatsumaki's psychic power couldn't get a grip. This entity operated on principles that bypassed normal defensive strategies. We need to evacuate the civilians, Bang said calmly. Tornado, create a barrier. Genos, suppression fire. Astraloid's form rippled. New appendages erupted from its body, each one crackling with that reality-distorting energy. It had finished adapting to this universe's physics. Now, it would feed properly. The three S-class heroes moved in coordination, trying to contain a threat that was evolving faster than they could adapt. Genos laid down covering fire, keeping the creature's attention divided. Tatsumaki erected barriers of compressed air and debris, trying to limit its mobility. Bang waited for an opening, looking for a weak point that might not exist. And somewhere in the dark sky above, Goku approached. He'd felt the wrongness from miles away, that sense of something that didn't belong. Now seeing the battle below, seeing heroes struggling against an entity that reminded him uncomfortably of beings from his own universe, he understood. This thing had followed him. It had come through the same rift drawn by the same dimensional breach, which meant, in a way, this was his responsibility. Goku's eyes hardened. His aura began to shimmer, invisible to the OPM heroes below, but building in intensity. He descended toward the battlefield, his approach silent but purposeful. Astraloid sensed him first. Its attention snapped upward, away from the heroes it had been systematically overwhelming. The entity's form pulsed with what might have been recognition or hunger, or something else entirely. It had found what it was looking for. The source of the dimensional energy. The being that had torn the rift in the first place. The Saiyan. Goku landed between the entity and the heroes, his posture relaxed but ready. Hey, he said, his voice carrying over the sounds of battle. I don't know what you are, but I'm guessing you're here because of me. Astraloid's response was immediate. Its tendrils lashed out, dozens of them, all aimed at Goku with singular focus. The Saiyan didn't move. He simply stood there as the attacks converged on his position. Goku, move! Genos shouted. The tendrils hit and stopped. Every single one arrested an inch from Goku's skin, unable to penetrate the invisible field of his Kai. Astraloid pushed harder, pouring energy into the assault. Goku's aura flared, visible for just a moment, a white glow that made the night seem dim by comparison. Yeah, Goku said quietly, more to himself than anyone else. You're definitely strong. This is going to be interesting. He looked back at the three heroes. You guys should probably back up. This might get loud. Tatsumaki bristled. We're not backing down from... He's right. Bang's voice cut through her protest. The old master had seen enough, had felt enough. Whatever was about to happen, the three of them were suddenly spectators, not participants. We evacuate civilians and establish a perimeter. This is beyond us now. Genos wanted to argue. His programming demanded he protect civilians, neutralize threats, fulfill his purpose. but his sensors were screaming warnings showing energy readings that made the previous dragon-level threat look insignificant. The three S-class heroes fell back. Goku turned his full attention to Astraloid. His friendly expression had vanished, replaced by the focused intensity of a fighter recognizing a true challenge. "All right," he said, beginning to stretch. "Let's see what you've got." Astraloid's form pulsed once, twice, 3 times. It was feeding on the ambient energy, on the fear and chaos, on the life force it had already consumed. Growing, evolving, becoming something more dangerous with each passing second. The real battle was about to begin. The evacuation was chaos, barely contained by protocol. Genos coordinated rescue efforts, while half his processors monitored the standoff between Goku and the entity. Tatsumaki lifted entire apartment buildings worth of civilians and deposited them outside the danger zone, her face twisted in frustration at being relegated to support duty. Bang moved through the streets with practiced efficiency, guiding panicked residents towards safety with calm authority. Behind them, the two impossibilities faced each other. Astraloid had grown to nearly 20 feet tall. Its crystalline body reflected the city lights in fractured pattern benzermans that hurt to look at for too long. The purple energy that suffused its form pulsed in rhythm with something that might have been a heartbeat, might have been a countdown. Energy tendrils writhed around it like living things, tasting the air, searching for more life to consume. Goku stood perfectly still. His orange gi fluttered slightly in a wind that didn't exist. His expression had shifted from friendly curiosity to something sharper, more focused. This was the face of someone who'd fought gods and demons, who'd died and come back, who'd pushed past every limit the universe tried to impose. "You're not from around here either, are you?" Goku said conversationally. "I can tell. You feel wrong, like you don't fit. Same as me, I guess." Astraloid didn't respond with words. It didn't have words. But its form rippled, and the air between them thickened with hostile intent. "Right, no talking. That's fine." Goku settled into a fighting stance. "Let's just skip to the good part, then." He moved first. A testing strike fast, but not his fastest. His fist connected with Astraloid's central mass, and the impact echoed like a bell being struck. The entity slid backwards several feet, concrete cracking under its base. Goku frowned. That should have done more damage. Astraloid recovered instantly. Its tendrils lashed out faster than before, adapting to Goku's speed. The Saiyan dodged, weaving between attacks that left trails of distorted air in their wake. Where the tendrils touched the ground, matter aged and crumbled. Where they passed through buildings, structural integrity simply ceased to exist. "Okay, so you're fast too," Goku said, ducking under a swipe that would have taken his head off. "And you've got that weird energy thing going on. Let's try this." His aura flared. Not visible to normal eyes, but Astraloid felt it. The pressure of ki, that life energy that suffused all things in Universe 7, suddenly concentrated around the Sai, in like an invisible storm. Goku's hair flickered for just a moment, caught between black and something else. He blurred forward, throwing a combination that would have pulverized a mountain. Each strike landed with precision, targeting what looked like joints or weak points in Astraloid's structure. The impacts created shockwaves that shattered windows 3 blocks away. Astraloid absorbed every hit. Its form rippled with each impact, but instead of breaking it, seemed to drink in the energy. The purple glow intensified. The entity grew another foot taller. "What the?" Goku jumped back, confusion crossing his face. "You're eating my attacks." From the perimeter, Genos watched through his targeting systems. The entity is demonstrating adaptive absorption capabilities. Subject Goku's kinetic energy is being converted and integrated into the threat's mass. Recommendation: cease physical attacks immediately. He can't hear you. Tatsumaki snapped her hands, still glowing with psychic power, as she held a barrier between the battle and the last few civilians. And I don't think he'd listen anyway. Look at his face. She was right. Goku wasn't frustrated or worried. He was excited. That expression of pure childlike joy that appeared whenever he found a challenge worth his time. This was what he lived for. The impossible fight, the unbeatable opponent, the chance to push himself further. All right, Goku said, grinning. If you can eat normal attacks, let's see how you handle this. His aura exploded outward. This time everyone could see it. A golden light that turned night into day, crackling with electricity that arced across the battlefield. Goku's hair stood up further, turned blonde, and his eyes shifted to teal. The ground beneath his feet cracked from the pressure of his transformation. Super Saiyan. The legendary transformation that multiplied a Saiyan's power 50-fold. Bang felt the pressure wave hit him from 3 blocks away and had to brace himself against a wall. What is that energy off the scale? Genos reported, his voice tight. The readings are higher than anything in our database. Higher than anything we've measured from Tornado. Higher than... He paused. This is impossible.
Come on.
Obviously not. Tatsumaki muttered, her eyes locked on the golden figure. She could feel it now, that pressure. Not psychic energy, not ki as she understood it, but something raw and primal that made her own power feel small by comparison. Goku moved again, but this time the speed was different. He crossed the distance to Astraloid in what looked like a single step, his fist already extended. The punch connected with a sound like thunder. Astraloid's entire body compressed, its crystalline structure cracking under the impact. It flew backwards, smashing through 3 buildings before it could arrest its momentum. Goku pursued, not giving it time to recover. He rained blows down on the entity, each one powerful enough to level a city block. Each one controlled enough to avoid killing any civilians who might still be nearby. But Astraloid was adapting. With each hit, its form became more resistant. The cracks healed. The purple glow spread further, and those tendrils began to extend again, now wreathed in golden light that matched Goku's aura. No way. Goku breathed, dodging back. You're copying my energy. Astraloid's response was to launch a counterattack using Goku's own ki. The tendrils, now blazing with stolen power, moved with Super Saiyan speed. Goku blocked the first few strikes, but the force behind them was growing. The entity was learning, evolving, becoming more efficient with each passing second. Goku gritted his teeth. Fine. Let's go higher. The golden aura intensified. Electricity increased. His muscles tensed as he pushed his transformation to the next level. Super Saiyan 2. The power doubled again, and the ground beneath him simply gave up and disintegrated into dust. He attacked with renewed fury, combinations that blurred into continuous motion strikes that came from impossible angles, energy building with each exchange. For a moment, it looked like he had the advantage. Astraloid's form began to fragment under the assault, pieces of its crystalline body breaking off. Then those pieces stopped falling. They floated suspended by the entity's power and began to orbit its core. Each fragment glowed with that purple light, but now mixed with gold. Astraloid was evolving again, incorporating Goku's Super Saiyan energy into its own structure. It's not working, Genos observed from the perimeter. His analytical mind processed the battle's progression with cold clarity. Every attack makes it stronger. Every technique Subject Goku uses, the entity adapts to counter. This is an impossible opponent. Nothing's impossible, Tatsumaki shot back, but her voice lacked conviction. She had never seen anything like this, never imagined something could simply drink in power and grow stronger from it. Bang watched in silence. He'd lived long enough to recognize when a fight was going wrong. Goku was strong, unbelievably so. But this entity was the perfect counter to straightforward power. It didn't have ego to wound or will to break. It simply consumed and evolved. On the battlefield, Goku powered down to his base form, breathing hard. Not from exhaustion, but from frustration. Okay, this is new. Usually, when I hit things hard enough, they stay down. Astraloid had grown to 30 feet tall. Its form had become more defined, more solid. The fragments orbiting its core had formed into a secondary structure, like armor made of stolen power. When it moved now, space itself seemed to bend slightly around it. "You're tough," Goku admitted, wiping sweat from his forehead. "And you're smart. You're learning from my attacks, getting stronger from my energy. That's actually really impressive." The entity's tendrils extended further, now dozens of them, each one capable of draining life force or delivering devastating physical attacks. It had evolved into something far more dangerous than what had emerged from the rift. All thanks to feeding on a Saiyon's power. Goku's expression shifted again. The excitement was still there, but tempered now with understanding. This wasn't just a strong opponent. This was something that thrived on conventional combat, that turned strength against itself. Fighting it normally would only make it stronger, which meant he needed to fight differently. "All right," Goku said, his tone becoming more serious. "I get it now. You're not just strong, you're a puzzle. And I'm pretty good at puzzles once I stop hitting them." He took a deep breath, centering himself. His aura began to shift, becoming less chaotic, more controlled. The golden light faded as he returned to base form, but his eyes held a new intensity. Behind him, the three S-class heroes watched and waited. They'd done everything they could. The evacuation was complete. The perimeter was secure. Now they could only observe as something beyond their understanding played out. Tatsumaki clenched her fists. "He better not lose. I'm not done testing him yet." "I don't think losing is what we should worry about," Bang said quietly. "I'm more concerned about what happens if he wins too thoroughly. This city is already half destroyed." Genos said nothing. His sensors tracked every movement recorded, every energy spike analyzed every pattern. This data would be invaluable, assuming any of them survived to review it. On the battlefield, Goku and Astraloid faced each other once more. The entity had stopped advancing, as if recognizing that its opponent had shifted strategies. It waited patient and alien, ready to adapt to whatever came next. Goku smiled. Not the friendly smile from before, but something sharper. The smile of a fighter who'd just figured out the trick to an impossible challenge. "Round 2, he said. "Let's do this right." The real fight was about to begin. Goku stood perfectly still. His breathing controlled his mind, calculating. This wasn't how he usually fought. Normally, he'd just power up and push through any obstacle with raw strength and determination. But Astraloid had proven that approach wouldn't work. Every ounce of power he threw at it simply became fuel for its evolution. So he needed to be smarter, faster, more precise. The entity waited, its massive form pulsing with accumulated energy. The stolen golden light mixed with its native purple glow created an unsettling aurora effect. Its tendrils swayed like kelp in an invisible current, ready to strike the moment Goku made a move. "Okay," Goku muttered to himself. "If I can't overpower it, maybe I can outpace its adaptation." His aura flared again, but this time differently. More focused, less explosive. The golden light returned, but compressed, contained. Super Saiyan, but with the control he'd learned over decades of mastering the form. Every bit of excess energy pulled tight against his body, reducing the radiation that Astraloid could feed on. He vanished, not with instant transmission, pure speed. Movement so fast it created afterimages that confused even Genos' targeting systems. Goku appeared behind Astraloid, struck once at a crystalline node that looked important, and vanished again before the counterattack could land. The entity spun tendrils, lashing out at where Goku had been. The Saiyan was already elsewhere, delivering another precise strike to a different part of its structure. Then another. Then 5 more in rapid succession, each hit targeting what looked like energy concentration points. "Surgical strikes," Genos observed from the perimeter. "He's changed tactics. Instead of overwhelming force, he's attempting to disrupt the entity's energy flow patterns." "Is it working?" Tatsumaki demanded. They watched. Astraloid's movements became more erratic as Goku's attacks found their marks. Cracks appeared in its crystalline armor. The purple glow flickered. For a moment it seemed like the new strategy was succeeding. Then Astraloid adapted again. Its form suddenly crystallized completely, becoming harder, denser. The speed of its tendrils increased exponentially, and they began to predict where Goku would appear, rather than reacting to where he'd been. One caught him across the ribs, and despite his durability, Goku felt it. The impact sent him tumbling through the air. He caught himself floating above the battlefield. A thin line of blood trickled from his lip. "Okay, so you can learn fast. Really fast." He wiped the blood away, grinning despite the situation. "Good. I was worried this would be too easy." His power spiked upward. The controlled Super Saiyan form erupted into something more chaotic. Electricity crackled around his body as his hair grew longer, reaching down his back. His muscles increased slightly, and the golden aura became so bright, it was painful to look at directly. Super Saiyan 3. The transformation that multiplied his power by 400 times his base form. The pressure wave from the transformation alone flattened everything within a 100-foot radius. The 3 S-class heroes had to brace themselves even from their distant position. Buildings that had somehow survived the earlier fighting now collapsed from structural stress. "That energy," Bang breathed. "It's suffocating." Tatsumaki's eyes were wide. She'd felt powerful entities before. Boros had registered as overwhelming. The Monster Association's executives had pushed her limits. But this was different. This was power that made the air itself feel heavy, that made reality seem thin. Goku descended slowly, his extended hair flowing around him. "Let's try this again." He attacked with devastating speed. Not afterimages now, but genuine everywhere, at once presence. His fists moved faster than light, creating a barrage that looked like a solid wall of impacts. Each strike carried enough force to shatter mountains. Hundreds of them landed in the span of a single second. Astraloid's crystalline form cracked, shattered. Pieces exploded outward as the sustained assault finally overwhelmed its structural integrity. For a moment, victory seemed certain. The fragments stopped mid-flight. Every piece of Astraloid's destroyed body hung in the air, glowing with that purple and gold light. Then they began to reform, but not into the previous shape. The entity was restructuring itself completely, creating a new form optimized specifically to counter Super Saiyan 3's overwhelming power. When it solidified, Astraloid had become sleeker, faster. Its previous bulk had been redistributed into a frame designed for speed. The energy tendrils had multiplied, becoming dozens of thin whips instead of thick appendages, and its core, now visible through the crystalline structure, pulsed with an intensity that made Goku's own energy signature look dim. "You're kidding me," Goku said, genuine surprise in his voice. "You can just rebuild yourself into whatever you need." Astraloid's response was immediate. It moved with speed that matched Goku's Super Saiyan 3 velocity, its whip-like tendrils creating a net that the Saiyan actually had to work to avoid. They exchanged blows in a blur of motion gold and purple energy, creating patterns in the air like abstract art. But Goku could feel it. The drain. Super Saiyan 3 consumed enormous amounts of energy, and every second he maintained it, more power radiated outward. Power that Astraloid was feeding on, even without landing direct hits. The entity was patient, content to match him speed for speed, while growing stronger from the ambient energy of the transformation. Goku powered down, abruptly returning to base form. He landed on a rooftop that had somehow remained intact, breathing harder now. Sweat dripped down his face. "Okay, this is actually kind of a problem." From the perimeter, Genos updated his analysis. The entity demonstrates exponential adaptation capabilities. Each transformation subject Goku employs provides new energy patterns for absorption and integration. Projected outcome: continued escalation will result in the entity becoming unstoppable. "So what's he supposed to do?" Tatsumaki snapped. "Just give up." "Unknown." Genos' voice held a note of something almost like concern. "The optimal strategy is unclear. Perhaps—" His words cut off as Goku's energy signature spiked again. But this time, it felt different. Not the wild golden power of Super Saiyan. Something more refined, more controlled. Blue light erupted around Goku's form. His hair shifted from black to blue, and his eyes took on that same azure color. The aura that surrounded him was compact, restrained, but the pressure it created made Super Saiyan 3 look wasteful by comparison. Super Saiyan Blue. The form that combined Super Saiyan with godly ki, refined over countless battles. "This one's different," Goku said, his voice calm, despite the intensity of his transformation. "This energy is contained, controlled. Let's see if you can adapt when there's nothing leaking out for you to eat." He moved again, but the style had changed. Not overwhelming speed or devastating power. Precision. Every movement economical. Every strike calculated. The blue aura didn't flare or spike. It remained steady, constant, revealing nothing for Astraloid to analyze and counter. The fight shifted. Goku flowed through Astraloid's defenses, landing hits that actually damaged its restructured form. The entity tried to adapt, tried to match this new energy pattern, but Blue's stable nature made it harder to grasp and copy. Where Super Saiyan had been a roaring fire feeding the creature, Blue was a laser cutting through its defenses. For several minutes, it looked like Goku had found the answer. His controlled assault pushed Astraloid back, prevented it from evolving, kept it on the defensive. The entity's form began to fragment again under the sustained pressure. Then, it changed tactics. Instead of trying to absorb Goku's energy, Astraloid turned its attention to everything else. The environment. The lingering life force in the area. the residual energy from the earlier transformations that still saturated the battlefield. It began to drain everything around it, growing not from Goku's attacks, but from the world itself. "It's feeding on the ambient energy," Genos reported, his voice tight. "The accumulated power from the entire battle. It's using Subject Goku's previous transformations as stored fuel." "Can it do that?" Tatsumaki asked, already knowing the answer. "Apparently, yes." Astraloid swelled, growing larger than it had ever been. 30 feet, 40, 50. Its form became complex, multi-layered, with dozens of cores visible through its crystalline structure. Each core pulsed with a different color, representing different types of energy it had consumed. Gold from Super Saiyan, deeper gold from Super Saiyan 2, brilliant gold from Super Saiyan 3, and now threading through it all veins of blue. Goku stared up at the monstrosity. "Well, that's not good." The entity's tendrils, now thick as tree trunks and numbering in the hundreds, lashed out with coordinated precision. Goku dodged his blue form, giving him the speed and reflexes to stay ahead of the assault. But he could see the problem. Every second this fight continued, Astraloid grew stronger. Every technique he used gave it more tools to counter with. He needed something it couldn't adapt to, something fundamentally different from ki attacks and physical force. As he dodged another wave of tendrils, Goku's mind raced. He thought about his training with Whis. The lessons about efficiency, about wasted motion, about the ultimate state of combat that transcended conscious thought. A state where the body moved without the mind commanding it. Where instinct replaced decision. Where there was no energy signature to read, because there was no deliberate intent to project one. Ultra instinct. But reaching that state required specific conditions, usually extreme stress, life-threatening danger, the kind of pressure that forced the conscious mind to step aside and let the body's natural wisdom take over. He looked at Astraloid now, massive and terrible, radiating power, stolen from his own transformations. He looked at the 3 S-class heroes watching from the perimeter. He thought about this world he'd accidentally invaded, these people he'd inadvertently put in danger by opening that rift. Then he smiled, despite everything, because pressure was something he understood, and impossible odds were his specialty. "All right," Goku said, his blue aura intensifying. "Let's take this up another level, but not here." He looked up toward the sky, toward space beyond the atmosphere, toward a place where this battle could escalate without destroying what remained of the city. "Hey," he called out to Astraloid. "How about we continue this somewhere with more room?" And before the entity could respond, Goku shot upward, a blue comet ascending toward the stars. He knew it would follow. It had been created or drawn here specifically to find him, to feed on his energy. It wouldn't let him escape. Sure enough, Astraloid's massive form began to rise, pulled upward by whatever passed for its will. The two impossibilities ascended together, leaving the wounded city below. On the ground, the 3 S-class heroes watched them go. "Should we follow?" Genos asked. "How?" Tatsumaki responded. "I can't fly that high. Not in space, not without air." Bang simply stared upward, his old eyes tracking the disappearing lights. "I think we've seen the last of this battle. Whatever happens next, it's beyond us." He was right, though none of them knew just how right. Above the atmosphere, in the cold dark between stars, the real fight was about to begin. The transition from atmosphere to vacuum happened in seconds. Goku felt the air thin, felt the temperature plummet, felt the familiar sensation of leaving Earth's protective embrace behind. Space didn't bother him anymore. Years of training with Whis, battles against cosmic threats, even dying and coming back, had acclimated him to environments that would kill normal beings instantly. Behind him, Astraloid followed. The entity didn't need air either, apparently. Its crystalline form reflected the distant stars, creating prismatic patterns across its massive surface. In the darkness of space, it looked almost beautiful. Almost. Goku stopped ascending at what he estimated was beyond the Karman line, well past where Earth's atmosphere could support life. Below, the planet curved away in shades of blue and white and brown. Cities sparkled like jewels across the night side. He could see the damaged area where G-City had been a dark scar on the landscape. "This is better," Goku said, knowing sound didn't carry in vacuum, but not particularly caring. Astraloid could sense his intent, if not his words. "Up here, we can really cut loose." The entity's response was immediate. Its tendrils extended even further in the zero-gravity environment, no longer constrained by the need to support its weight. They spread out in three-dimensional space, creating a cage of deadly appendages that surrounded Goku from every angle. Goku's blue aura intensified. In the darkness of space, it looked like a miniature star had been born. The light reflected off Earth below, visible to anyone looking up at the right moment. Somewhere on that planet, astronomers were probably having very confused conversations about an unexpected celestial phenomenon. The fight resumed with renewed intensity. Without atmosphere to slow them down, without buildings to avoid, or civilians to protect, both combatants moved at speeds that would have been impossible planetside. Goku blurred through the cage of tendrils, his movements precise and economical. Blue energy trailed behind him, like ribbons, creating patterns that would be beautiful if they weren't so deadly. Astraloid adapted to the space environment instantly. Its form became even more fluid, less constrained by the pretense of physical structure. It spread itself out, becoming a cloud of crystalline fragments that could attack from any direction. Each fragment pulsed with stolen power, and together they created a swarm that would have overwhelmed most opponents. But Goku wasn't most opponents. He fought with a focus he rarely needed. Every movement deliberate, every strike calculated to do maximum damage while expending minimum energy. This was the blue form at its peak, the perfect balance of power and control that he and Vegeta had spent years mastering. A fragment came at him from his blind spot. He twisted, caught it mid-flight, and crushed it in his fist. The fragment exploded into smaller pieces. But Goku was already moving, already targeting the next threat. His hands became blurs as he systematically destroyed the swarm piece by piece. For every fragment he destroyed, Astraloid regenerated 2 more. The entity was pulling matter from somewhere, converting energy directly into mass. Or maybe it was pulling matter from its own higher dimensional nature, drawing on reserves that existed outside normal space. Goku powered up further. The blue aura expanded, became more intense. He wasn't quite at full power yet, still holding back some reserves, but he was getting there. The ki began to affect the space around him, creating gravitational distortions that pulled the fragments toward him rather than requiring him to chase them down. "This is actually pretty fun," Goku admitted, grinning as he worked. "You keep adapting, so I have to keep changing strategies. It's like fighting Frieza and Cell and Bu all at once, except you're not talking trash the whole time." Astraloid's fragments suddenly converged, reforming into a single massive structure. Not the previous crystalline humanoid shape, but something new. A sphere, perfectly smooth, rotating slowly. The surface rippled with energy patterns that Goku recognized as his own ki signatures, cataloged and weaponized. The sphere pulsed once. A wave of force exploded outward in all directions. Not physical force, but energy that targeted life itself. The same technique Astraloid had used planetside to drain victims, but amplified 1,000-fold and broadcast omnidirectionally. Goku felt it wash over him, felt it trying to pull at his life force to drain the energy that animated his body. His blue aura flickered as the attack found purchase. For a moment his power dipped, then he pushed back. "Nice try," Goku said through gritted teeth. His aura exploded outward, creating a barrier of pure ki that shielded him from the draining effect. "But I've got way too much energy for you to drain all at once." He gathered power in both hands. Blue light coalesced into spheres of compressed ki, each one containing enough destructive force to vaporize an asteroid. Kamehameha! The twin beams lanced out, crossing the distance to Astraloid in an instant. They struck the sphere dead center, and for a moment the entire structure lit up like a second sun. Energy cascaded across its surface, overwhelming its ability to absorb and convert. The sphere cracked, then shattered. Fragments exploded outward, each one trailing blue fire. Goku pressed his advantage, firing ki blast after ki blast at the dispersing pieces, trying to overwhelm the entity's regeneration before it could pull itself together. It almost worked. Astraloid's fragments stopped dispersing. They hung in space, each one glowing with accumulated power, and then they began to resonate. A hum that Goku felt in his bones, despite the vacuum. The fragments weren't reforming into a single structure. They were becoming a network, a distributed intelligence that could attack from countless angles simultaneously, while sharing energy and information across the whole. "Okay, that's new," Goku observed. He could feel his blue form starting to strain. The transformation consumed a lot of energy, even when perfectly controlled, and this fight had gone on longer than most. He needed to end it soon, or risk burning through his stamina completely. But Astraloid had other plans. The network of fragments suddenly compressed, not reforming, but creating a singularity of sorts at its center. Energy began to flow inward, pulled from every fragment simultaneously. The concentration of power grew so intense that space itself began to distort around it. Goku's combat instincts screamed a warning. Whatever Astraloid was preparing, it was going to be big, really big. Possibly planet-threatening big. He couldn't let that attack finish charging. Goku clasped his hands together, power building between his palms. The blue aura around him intensified to the point of becoming painful to look at. This was it. Everything he had left in this form compressed into a single technique. Ah! The Kamehameha wave that erupted from his hands was larger than any he'd fired in this battle. A column of pure blue energy that lit up the space between Earth and its moon. The beam struck Astraloid's charging singularity head-on, two immense forces colliding in the cold dark. For a moment, they seemed evenly matched. Goku's final Kamehameha pushing against Astraloid's accumulated power, neither giving ground. Energy crackled between them, creating miniature lightning storms in the vacuum. Then, Astraloid's attack activated. The singularity pulsed, and suddenly Goku's Kamehameha wasn't pushing forward anymore. It was being pulled in, absorbed, converted. The blue energy disappeared into the darkness at the attack's center, feeding it, making it stronger. "No way," Goku breathed. His arms shook with effort as he tried to cut off the beam, but the pull was too strong. The singularity was draining his attack faster than he could stop it. He powered down abruptly, breaking the connection. The Kamehameha dissipated, leaving just Goku floating in space, breathing hard, his blue aura flickering. Below that, his Super Saiyan Blue form started to destabilize. He couldn't maintain it much longer. Astraloid's singularity had grown massive. It pulsed with power, stolen from Goku's ultimate attack, preparing to release it all in one devastating burst. The entity had finally achieved what it had been working toward all along. Enough accumulated energy to evolve into something truly dangerous. The singularity began to expand, not exploding outward, but growing deliberately like a cocoon opening to reveal what was inside. When it finished, Astraloid had taken a new form. This version looked almost humanoid. Sleek, powerful, with defined limbs and a head that actually had features. It stood at roughly Goku's height, which was somehow more unsettling than its previous massive size. The purple and gold and blue energy that had characterized its earlier forms had merged into something new. A color that didn't have a name, that existed somewhere between light and darkness. And its eyes, newly formed, locked onto Goku with intelligence and intent. "So, you can look like a person now." Goku said, his voice steady despite his exhaustion. "That's actually kind of creepy." Astraloid raised one hand. Energy crackled around it, a perfect fusion of all the powers it had absorbed. Super Saiyan's raw strength, Super Saiyan 2's speed, Super Saiyan 3's overwhelming power, and Super Saiyan Blue's godly control. It had become a mirror, reflecting everything Goku had thrown at it, refined and perfected. Goku's blue form flickered one final time, and then dropped. He returned to his base state, black hair falling around his face, body covered in sweat despite the cold of space. He'd pushed blue as far as it could go, and it wasn't enough. The entity began to approach, moving through space with impossible grace. It had been patient, building power, learning, evolving. Now, it was ready to finish what had started with a Saiyan's accidental arrival in this universe. Goku closed his eyes, took a breath, centered himself in a way that went beyond technique or training. This wasn't about power anymore. Astraloid had proven it could match or absorb any level of energy he threw at it. So he needed something that transcended power entirely. He needed to let go. His consciousness began to recede, pulling back from active control. His body remained ready, poised, but no longer directed by thought. The tension in his muscles released. His breathing became automatic rather than deliberate. Somewhere deep in his mind, a door opened. A state he'd touched only briefly, only in the most desperate moments. A place where the body moved without the mind commanding it, where instinct replaced thought, where there was no telegraph for an opponent to read because there was no conscious intent. His hair began to shift, not to gold or blue, but to something that looked almost silver in the reflected light. His eyes, when they opened, had changed. Not focused on anything, yet seeing everything. Ultra instinct had awakened, and Astraloid, for the first time since emerging into this universe, hesitated. The silence of space had never felt heavier. Goku floated motionless, his body relaxed in a way that looked vulnerable but absolutely wasn't. His hair, now silver white, moved slightly despite the absence of wind. His eyes held no focus, no intent, yet somehow tracked everything. This was Ultra Instinct's sign, the incomplete version of the ultimate technique. Not the full transformation, but a glimpse of what lay beyond conscious thought. Astraloid studied its opponent with newly formed eyes. Something had changed. The energy signature it had been tracking, cataloging, absorbing, had vanished. Not suppressed, not hidden, simply gone. Where there had been a blazing beacon of ki to feed on, now there was nothing. An absence that felt more dangerous than any presence. The entity moved, first testing. One of its perfected tendrils lashed out, moving at speeds that would have caught Goku in his blue form. The Saiyan's body shifted, not dodging, not blocking, just moving the minimum distance necessary to let the attack pass harmlessly by. He didn't seem to see it coming. He simply wasn't there when it arrived. Astraloid tried again, launching 3 simultaneous strikes from different angles. Goku flowed between them like water, his movements impossibly smooth. Each dodge looked accidental, like he'd happened to shift position at exactly the right moment purely by chance. But it wasn't chance. This was perfection. The entity adapted quickly. If singular strikes wouldn't work, overwhelming numbers would. It fragmented its humanoid form, slightly creating dozens of attacking appendages that converged on Goku from every direction at once. A cage of force that no amount of speed could evade. Goku moved through it anyway. His body twisted, bent, flowed. Attacks that should have been impossible to avoid simply missed. There was no wasted motion, no excess energy expenditure. Every movement was exactly what was needed, and nothing more. He wasn't thinking about defense. His body was defending itself, operating on a level that transcended conscious decision-making. And then he counterattacked. A single palm strike moving at speeds that made his previous blue form look slow. It connected with Astraloid's core before the entity could even register the attack was coming. The impact sent shockwaves through its structure, and for the first time since evolving to its humanoid form, Astraloid felt something it hadn't experienced before. Pain. Not physical pain. The entity didn't have nerves or a conventional biology, but that strike had carried something beyond kinetic energy. It had touched the core of what Astraloid was, bypassed all its adaptive defenses, and hit the fundamental essence beneath. The entity recoiled, reforming at a distance. This was new. This was dangerous. Every previous attack from the Saiyan had been something to absorb, to learn from, to grow stronger against. But this technique offered nothing to feed on. There was no excess energy to drain, no pattern to copy. Just pure, unavoidable impact. Astraloid began to adapt anyway, because that's what it did. That's what it was designed to do. It analyzed the strike, studied the absence of energy signature, calculated new defensive parameters. Its form shifted, became more fluid, prepared to phase out of normal space if necessary. Goku attacked again. This time faster, his fist catching Astraloid mid-transformation. The entity's attempt to phase failed, as the punch landed, disrupting whatever dimensional trick it had been preparing. Another strike followed, then another. Each one precise, each one unavoidable. The Saiyan wasn't fighting like he had before. There was no strategy, no planning, no conscious thought directing his actions. He simply moved, and his body found the openings, exploited the weaknesses, delivered strikes that bypassed every defense Astraloid erected. This was the true terror of Ultra Instinct. Against normal opponents, it was overwhelming. Against an adaptive entity like Astraloid, it was devastating. Because the entity's entire evolutionary strategy relied on reading its opponent, learning their patterns, countering their techniques. But Ultra Instinct had no patterns. No conscious intent to telegraph attacks, nothing to read or predict or counter. Astraloid tried everything. It split into fragments to divide Goku's attention. The Saiyan flowed through them, destroying each piece with minimal effort. It created energy nets to trap him. He moved through the spaces between attacks that shouldn't have existed. It tried to drain the ambient space around him. There was nothing to drain. For the first time since emerging into this universe, Astraloid was losing. The entity began to glow brighter, pulling on every reserve of power it had accumulated. All the energy from Super Saiyan, from Super Saiyan 2 and 3, from Blue, all the life force it had drained, all the potential stored in its crystalline structure. It poured everything into a final desperate gambit. The humanoid form dissolved completely. In its place, a massive wave of pure destructive energy expanded outward in all directions. Not an attack that could be dodged. A sphere of annihilation that would consume everything within its radius, including the Saiyan, floating at its center. Goku's silver eyes tracked the expanding wave. His body tensed, not with fear, but with preparation. And then, for just a moment, something shifted. The incomplete sign form wavered. Energy spiked around him, building to a crescendo. His hair became even more silver, his aura manifesting as heat shimmer rather than visible light. The transformation completed in an instant, full ultra instinct. The wave of annihilation hit him and simply stopped, not blocked by a barrier, not deflected by technique. Just stopped as if it had encountered something that couldn't be destroyed. Goku stood at the center of the blast, untouched his body, operating on a level that made the entity's ultimate attack irrelevant. He moved. The distance between him and Astraloid's core vanished in less than an instant. His fist extended, not glowing with energy or trailing light, just moving with absolute certainty toward its target. The punch landed before Astraloid could even begin to adapt. The impact didn't create an explosion, didn't release waves of force. The energy went entirely into the target, focused with such precision that nothing was wasted. Astraloid's core structure shattered. Not into fragments that could regenerate, into dust, into nothing. The entity's accumulated mass began to collapse. All that stolen power, all that evolved potential, started to disperse. Astraloid tried to hold itself together, tried to adapt one final time, but Ultra Instinct gave it no opening. No pattern to exploit, no weakness to target. Goku's second strike came from a different angle, destroying another concentration of energy. His third targeted a node attempting to maintain cohesion. His fourth, fifth, sixth strikes came so fast they appeared simultaneous, each one dismantling another piece of Astraloid's structure. The entity that had evolved to counter everything that had grown stronger from every attack that had become a perfect mirror of Saiyan power, crumbled under an assault that offered nothing to mirror. Ultra Instinct was the absence of excess, the perfection of efficiency. And against something that fed on waste energy, that perfection was fatal. Astraloid made one last attempt. It gathered the remnants of its consciousness, tried to condense into something small enough to escape, to hide, to survive, and rebuild. But Goku's body knew. His instinct tracked the attempt, and his final strike found the last coherent piece of the entity's essence. The punch connected with a sound that shouldn't have been possible in vacuum. A sharp crack that echoed through dimensional barriers. Astraloid's remaining structure burst apart into particles so fine they could barely be called matter. The purple and gold and blue light that had defined it flared once brilliant and terrible and then faded. The entity was gone. Goku floated in space, his silver hair gradually fading back to black. The heat shimmer aura around him dissipated. Ultra Instinct released its hold, his consciousness returning to normal awareness. The transformation dropped, leaving him in his base form once more, breathing heavily despite the vacuum. He felt it then. The exhaustion. Ultra Instinct especially, the complete version took a tremendous toll. His body ached in ways that had nothing to do with physical damage. The technique had pushed him beyond normal limits, and now he was paying the price. But the threat was neutralized. Astraloid, the entity that had followed him through the dimensional rift, that had evolved to counter his every technique, was gone, reduced to scattered particles that would eventually drift into the sun or fall to Earth as harmless dust. Goku looked down at the planet below. From up here, it looked peaceful, beautiful. Hard to believe that just hours ago he'd accidentally crashed into this world, caused chaos, and brought a cosmic threat with him. "Sorry about that," he said to the planet, even though no one could hear him. "I'll try to clean up better next time." He sensed something else then. A presence back on Earth. Not threatening, but powerful. Incredibly powerful. An energy signature that didn't feel like anything he'd encountered in this universe so far. It felt almost hollow, like an infinite void, wrapped in human shape. His Saiyan instincts perked up despite his exhaustion. Something strong was down there, something that made his warrior's heart quicken with possibility. But first, he needed to get back to the surface. Explain what happened. Make sure the people he'd fought alongside were okay. And maybe get some food. He was starving. Goku oriented himself toward Earth and began to descend. Behind him, the space where Astraloid had been destroyed sparkled with the last remnants of its existence. In a few hours, even those would be gone. The immediate crisis was over. But in a city not far from the battle's origin, a bald man in a yellow suit was walking home from the supermarket, completely unaware that the most powerful Saiyan in existence was about to sense his presence and become very, very interested in meeting him. This universe was about to get even more complicated. Goku's descent through Earth's atmosphere was considerably less dramatic than his exit had been. No blue aura trailing behind him. No energy distorting the air, just a tired Saiyan falling with enough control to avoid burning up from re-entry friction. He touched down in the outskirts of what used to be G-City, landing on a rooftop that had somehow survived the chaos. His legs wobbled slightly. Ultra Instinct's toll was catching up with him. It wasn't physical exhaustion exactly, more like his entire being needed to reset after operating at that level. "That was rough," he said to himself, sitting down heavily. "Really rough. But hey, the scary crystal thing is gone, so that's good." "Subject Goku." Genos' voice made him turn. The cyborg was approaching from the south, his armor scorched and dented from the earlier battle, but his systems still operational. Behind him, moving with considerably more hostility, came Tatsumaki. And bringing up the rear with measured steps was Bang. "You destroyed it," Genos stated. It wasn't a question. His sensors had tracked the entire space battle, recorded energy signatures that his database couldn't properly categorize. "The entity, it's gone." "Yeah." Goku stood up, wincing slightly. "Took everything I had, but yeah, it won't be bothering anyone anymore." "Everything you had?" Tatsumaki floated closer, her green eyes narrowed. "That wasn't everything. I felt it. At the end, right before the energy readings went completely insane. You transformed again, didn't you? Into something beyond that blue form." Goku scratched the back of his head sheepishly. You noticed that?" "Yeah, I had to use a special technique. It's kind of hard to explain, but basically my body moves without me thinking about it. Really useful against opponents that adapt quickly. A technique that allows autonomous combat response." Genos processed. "That explains the absence of telegraphed intent in your movements. The entity couldn't predict attacks that weren't consciously planned." "Exactly." Goku perked up, happy someone understood. "You get it. Man, you're smart." Bang stepped forward, his weathered face thoughtful. "This technique, it's not something you can maintain indefinitely, is it? You look exhausted. You noticed, huh?" Goku rubbed his arms, trying to work feeling back into tired muscles. Yeah, Ultra Instinct takes a lot out of me. I can only use it for short bursts, and afterwards I'm pretty much wiped. Need food and rest to recover properly. Ultra Instinct. Tatsumaki repeated, tasting the words. Pretentious name. I didn't pick it, Goku said defensively. My teacher named it that. Something about instinct being the ultimate form of combat or whatever. Honestly, I was more focused on learning how to do it than what to call it. The four of them stood in silence for a moment, surveying the damaged city. Fires still burned in some places. Buildings had collapsed. The civilian casualties from Astraloid's initial feeding were a grim reality that couldn't be ignored. I'm sorry, Goku said quietly. This is my fault. That thing followed me here through the dimensional rift. If I hadn't pushed that button, hadn't fallen into this world, none of this would have happened. True, Tatsumaki said bluntly, but you also stopped it. That entity would have consumed this entire city if you hadn't intervened. Probably would have kept growing until it threatened the whole planet. The casualty count would have been catastrophic, Genos added. Preliminary estimates suggest 17 deaths from the entity's initial feeding phase. Tragic but minimal, compared to what a prolonged God-level threat scenario typically produces. Your intervention, while responsible for the threat's arrival, also prevented exponentially greater loss of life. That's not much comfort to the people who died, Goku said. No. Bang agreed. It isn't, but the young cyborg is right. You could have run. Could have tried to escape back to your own universe and left us to deal with a threat we couldn't handle. Instead, you fought. You protected people you don't even know in a world that isn't yours. That counts for something. Goku looked at the old master, saw the sincerity in his eyes, and felt marginally better. Still guilty, but better. The Hero Association wants to see you, Genos said. They've been monitoring the battle as best they could. They'll want a debrief, and... He paused, something almost like uncertainty crossing his face. They'll want to offer you official membership. You've more than proven your capabilities. Membership? Goku tilted his head. You mean like joining your hero group? I don't know if I can. I'm not from here, and eventually I need to get back home. Whis is probably looking for me right now, and if he's not, then Vegeta definitely is. He hates missing training. Even temporary membership would be beneficial, Genos argued. Access to Hero Association resources, coordination with other heroes, and official authorization to operate would... He cut off mid-sentence. His sensors had picked up something. A new energy signature approaching from the east. Except it wasn't really a signature. It was more like a void, an absence that his system struggled to categorize. Tatsumaki felt it too, her psychic senses going haywire. What is that? Bang simply turned to look in the direction of the presence. His expression shifted to something like recognition. Ah, I wondered when he'd show up. Who? Goku asked, but he already knew. He'd felt this presence from space, this strange hollow power that didn't make sense according to everything he understood about ki and energy. Now it was close. Very close. A figure appeared at the end of the street, walking casually through the destruction. He wore a simple yellow jumpsuit with a white cape. His head was completely bald, reflecting the streetlights. His face held an expression of mild boredom. Saitama had arrived. Hey, the bald man called out. This area's kind of a mess. Was there a monster attack or something? Genos stiffened. Sensei, you were supposed to be shopping. I was shopping. Saitama replied, holding up plastic bags full of groceries. Then I saw all the lights and explosions in the sky and figured something was happening. But it looks like you guys handled it already. He glanced at Goku. Who's the new guy? Goku stared. The presence he'd sensed was coming from this ordinary-looking man in a costume. But that made no sense. The man looked completely average. No visible muscles, no battle scars, no intimidating aura. Just a guy. Yet that hollow feeling remained, like staring into an abyss that stared back. "Sensei, this is Goku," Genos said formally. "He's a..." He paused, realizing he didn't actually know what Goku was. "He's very strong. Possibly S-class rank 1 level of strong." "Huh." Saitama looked Goku up and down with mild interest. "You look pretty normal. Well, except for the weird hair. Is that natural?" "Yeah, I'm a Saiyan," Goku said absently, still trying to figure out what he was sensing. "Our hair does this. But you, I can feel something from you, something really strong." "Can you..." Saitama scratched his head. "That's weird. Nobody usually says that. They just say I look weak." Tatsumaki snorted. "He's not wrong, though. You are ridiculous." "Thanks, Tornado," Saitama said dryly. Goku took a step forward. His exhaustion had suddenly become less important. His Saiyan instincts, the ones that had driven him to seek out strong opponents, his entire life were practically screaming at him. "You're strong, aren't you? Like really strong?" "I guess," Saitama shrugged. "I work out a lot. Would you want to spar? Sometime I promise I'll hold back." The words tumbled out before Goku could stop them. He knew he should rest. New Ultra Instinct had drained him. But the possibility of fighting someone this interesting overrode his common sense. Saitama looked at him for a long moment. Then he looked at his groceries. "I've got frozen stuff. It'll melt if I don't get home soon." "Oh, right, sorry." Goku backed off, embarrassed. "Maybe another time then." "Sure," Saitama said easily. "You know where I live, Genos?" "Yes, Sensei." "Great. Send him by sometime. I'll spar with him after I put away my groceries." Saitama started to walk away, then paused. "Oh, and good job handling whatever happened up there. The lights were pretty." He wandered off into the ruined city, his yellow cape fluttering behind him. Goku watched him go, a smile spreading across his face despite his exhaustion. "He's amazing. Did you feel that presence?" "I felt nothing," Tatsumaki said flatly. "He's just Saitama. Weird bald Saitama who somehow always shows up late to everything." "Sensei is the strongest," Genos stated with absolute conviction. "His power cannot be measured by conventional means." "Strongest, huh?" Goku's smile widened. "This world is so cool. First I fight that crystal thing, and now there's a guy who might actually give me a real challenge." Bang chuckled softly. "I suggest you recover first, young man. Saitama is unique. You'll understand when you face him." "Can't wait," Goku said, and meant it. Above them, the sky was beginning to lighten with approaching dawn. The battle was over. The threat was neutralized. And somehow, despite the destruction and death, despite the guilt and exhaustion, Goku felt that familiar excitement building. This universe had strong people, really strong people, and he was going to fight them all. But first, food. Definitely food. "So," he said to the three heroes, "anyone know where I can get something to eat? Like a lot of something, I'm absolutely starving. Genos pulled up a map on his internal display. There's an all-night restaurant 3 blocks from here that survived the damage. It's known for large portions. Perfect. Goku's energy seemed to return just from the mention of food. Let's go. And you can tell me more about this Saitama guy. He seems really interesting. As the 4 of them made their way through the damaged streets toward food and rest, none of them noticed the small shimmer in the sky above. A faint distortion barely visible that marked where Whis had finally located his missing student. The angel watched from his dimensional vantage point, observed Goku laughing with these strange new allies, and made a decision. He wouldn't retrieve the Saiyan immediately. Let him enjoy himself for a while. Let him make friends. Lord Beerus would be upset about the delayed return, but that was a problem for later. For now, Goku deserved a brief vacation in this peculiar universe. Whis smiled, adjusted his staff, and settled in to observe. This was going to be entertaining. 3 hours of sleep, 2 full restaurant buffets, and 1 very confused Hero Association debrief later. Goku stood outside a rundown apartment building in Z City. The structure looked like it had survived several monster attacks through sheer stubbornness rather than any particular structural integrity. Cracks ran up the walls, windows were patched with tape. The whole building tilted slightly to the left. "This is it?" Goku asked, checking the address Genos had given him. "Sensei prefers modest accommodations," the cyborg replied. He'd insisted on accompanying Goku, partly for documentation purposes, and partly because he still didn't entirely trust this dimensional visitor alone with his teacher. "He lives on the 3rd floor. They climbed the external stairs, each step creaking ominously. Goku could sense Saitama's presence above them, that strange, hollow feeling that simultaneously registered as nothing and everything. It made his palms itch with anticipation. Genos knocked on the door. "Sensei, we've arrived." The door opened to reveal Saitama in casual clothes, his expression flat as always. "Oh, it's you guys. Come in, I guess." The apartment was small. 1 room that served as bedroom, living room, and dining area. A tiny kitchen off to the side, minimal furniture, everything clean but worn. This was the home of someone who either didn't care about material comfort or couldn't afford to. "Thanks for having me," Goku said, looking around with interest. "Nice place." "It's cheap," Saitama corrected. "Rent is low because monsters attack this city a lot. But yeah, it works." He gestured to a small table. "You want tea or something first? Or should we just get to the sparring?" "Let's spar," Goku said immediately. "I've been thinking about it all morning. You feel really strong and I want to see what you can do." Saitama shrugged. "Okay, but we should go somewhere open. I don't want to wreck my apartment again. Landlord gets cranky." They relocated to a nearby park, one of the few open spaces in Z City that hadn't been completely destroyed in recent monster attacks. Genos set up observation equipment, while Goku and Saitama faced each other across a patch of grass that had seen better days. "So," Saitama said, "you're pretty strong, right? That's what everyone keeps saying." "I try to be," Goku replied, falling into a ready stance. "I've trained my whole life to get stronger. Fought a lot of really powerful people. Some of them tried to destroy planets. One of them was a god. Well, technically, several were gods. It gets complicated." "Sounds rough." Saitama stood completely still, hands at his sides, no guard whatsoever. "I just did push-ups and stuff." Goku blinked. "Push-ups?" "Yeah, 100 push-ups, 100 sit-ups, 100 squats, and a 10-kilometer run. Every single day, for 3 years. No breaks, even when I felt like dying. That's it. Goku couldn't keep the disbelief out of his voice. Just that basic training gave you all this power? I went bald too, Saitama added, as if that explained something. Anyway, you want to start? I'll try not to hit too hard. There was no arrogance in his words, no boasting, just a simple statement of fact. Somehow that made it more unsettling. Goku powered up slightly, just enough to test the waters. His base form energy spiked, making the air around him shimmer. All right, I'll go easy too. Ready? Sure. Goku moved, fast, but not his fastest. A testing strike aimed at Saitama's guard. The bald man didn't block. He just leaned slightly to the side and Goku's fist passed by his head with an inch to spare. Interesting. Goku tried again faster this time. A combination of strikes that would overwhelm most opponents. Saitama dodged each one with minimal movement, his expression remaining completely bored. Not struggling, not concentrating, just avoiding. You're pretty fast, Saitama observed, but you're holding back a lot, right? Yeah, Goku admitted, pulling back. I don't want to hurt you, plus I'm still recovering from that big fight earlier. Oh, that's why you're moving slow. Saitama scratched his chin. Want me to go first then, so you can see what I do? Sure. Saitama took a single step forward and threw a punch. The world exploded. Not literally, but the shock wave from the strike tore through the air with enough force to uproot trees 100 feet away. The ground cracked in a spiderweb pattern. Goku, who had attempted to dodge, found himself skidding backward across the grass, his feet digging furrows in the earth. He caught himself after 20 meters eyes wide. Whoa. That was just one punch. Normal punch, Saitama clarified. I've got serious ones too, but those are for actual monsters. A normal punch did that? Goku looked at the devastation around them, then back at Saitama, who stood there looking vaguely apologetic. How strong are your serious punches? Pretty strong, Saitama said unhelpfully. Genos, from his observation point, was frantically recording data. His sensors had barely registered the punch before it landed. No energy buildup, no telegraphed movement, just instantaneous overwhelming force. Exactly like Sensei's usual style, but somehow seeing it used against someone of Goku's caliber made it even more impressive. Okay, Goku said, grinning despite himself. My turn again. For real this time. He powered up properly, not transforming yet, but releasing the restraints he usually kept on his base form. The ground beneath him cracked. The air pressure dropped. Energy radiated outward in waves that made Genos' systems struggle to compensate. Saitama watched with mild interest. Oh, that's better. You were definitely holding back before. Goku blurred forward, moving at speeds that left after images. He appeared behind Saitama, struck at his kidney. The bald man turned just enough to let the hit miss. Goku appeared above him, driving a kick downward. Saitama sidestepped. Left, right, below, above. Goku attacked from every angle, moving faster than sound, and Saitama avoided every strike with motions so minimal they almost looked lazy. You're really good at dodging, Goku said, breathing slightly harder. You're telegraphing your attacks, Saitama replied. Your body tenses right before you strike. Makes it easy to read. That pulled Goku up short. He'd heard similar things from Whis during Ultra Instinct training. The body betraying intent before the conscious mind finished planning. But hearing it from this bald man in a yellow suit felt different. Like Saitama wasn't guessing. He just knew. "All right," Goku said. "Let me try something." He powered up to Super Saiyan. The golden transformation erupted around him, hair standing on end, teal eyes blazing. The energy output increased 50-fold. The park they stood in was now definitely going to need repairs. "Oh, your hair changed," Saitama observed. "That's a neat trick." "It's not a trick. It's a transformation." Goku launched himself forward again this time with Super Saiyan speed. The world blurred around them as they moved faster than most people could perceive. Goku's fists became a golden storm, each strike carrying enough force to demolish buildings. Saitama blocked now instead of just dodging. His forearm came up, caught Goku's punch with a sound like a bomb going off. The shockwave flattened grass in a perfect circle around them. Saitama didn't move, didn't slide back, just stood there looking thoughtful. "You got a lot stronger suddenly," he said. "Does that hair color thing make you more powerful?" "Yeah." Goku pulled back, impressed. "This form multiplies my strength by 50 times. Most people can't even handle one hit from me like this, but you just blocked it like nothing." "Huh." Saitama looked at his arm as if checking to make sure it was still there. "Didn't hurt or anything. You sure you're going all out?" "Not even close," Goku admitted, powering down to base form. "I've got way more transformations, but I don't think I should use them here. We'd probably destroy the city." "Yeah, that happens a lot," Saitama agreed. "Property damage is a real problem in this line of work." They stood looking at each other for a moment. Goku was grinning, energized by the exchange. Saitama looked exactly as bored as when they'd started. But there was something in his eyes now, a tiny spark of interest that hadn't been there before. "You're incredible," Goku said honestly. "I've never met anyone who could just shrug off my Super Saiyan punches like that." "Well, except for gods and angels, but well, they're in a different category. You're human, right?" "I think so," Saitama said. "Sometimes I'm not sure anymore. The training kind of changed me." "I can tell." Goku's Saiyan instincts were screaming at him. This man was dangerous. Not in an evil way, but in the way that a sleeping dragon is dangerous. All that power compressed into an unassuming package, waiting for something that actually required effort. "Want to go one more round? I promise I'll try harder." "Okay," Saitama said. "But maybe not Super Saiyan this time. I want to see what you can do normally." That was an interesting request. Most people wanted to see the flashy transformations, the big power displays. But Saitama was asking for the opposite. He wanted to see technique, not spectacle. Goku dropped into a proper martial arts stance, one he'd learned from Master Roshi decades ago and refined through countless battles. "All right. Pure skill, then." What followed was perhaps the strangest fight Goku had ever experienced. No energy attacks, no transformations. Just two martial artists testing each other's limits through pure technique. Goku attacked with precision, strikes honed by training with gods. Saitama defended with economy of motion that suggested perfect body control. They moved through the ruined park like dancers, each exchange faster and more complex than the last. Goku found openings that shouldn't exist. Saitama closed them before they could be exploited. It was combat as conversation, each fighter learning about the other through their movements. And Goku realized something remarkable. He wasn't landing hits because Saitama was faster or stronger, though he might have been both. He wasn't landing hits because Saitama's defense was perfect. every motion exactly what was needed. No excess, no waste. It reminded him of something. Someone. "You fight like Whis," Goku said, pulling back after a particularly complex exchange. "Like everything's effortless." "Who's Whis?" "My teacher. He's an angel. Taught me Ultra Instinct." "Oh." Saitama tilted his head. "Is that the thing where your body moves on its own?" Goku froze. "How did you know that?" "Because you almost did it just now. Your eyes went kind of blank for a second, and your movements changed, became smoother. Then you came back to normal." Saitama said it casually, like he was discussing the weather. It looked pretty effective. From his observation point, Genos' sensors had indeed detected a brief spike in Goku's movement efficiency. The subject had approached Ultra Instinct sign for approximately 1.3 seconds before conscious thought reasserted itself. That Sensei had noticed and identified it without any instruments was unsurprising, actually. Sensei noticed everything important. "You really are something else," Goku said, laughing. "I came here thinking I'd find a strong opponent, but you're way more than that. You're like a perfect fighter. No wasted movement, no obvious weaknesses, just pure efficiency." "I got bored with the training style," Saitama admitted. "So I focused on not wasting energy. Why block when you can dodge? Why dodge far when you can dodge just enough? That kind of thing." "That's basically what Ultra Instinct is," Goku said. "You figured it out on your own just by getting bored." Saitama shrugged. "I guess." They stood in silence for a moment, the park around them thoroughly wrecked despite their best efforts to minimize damage. Genos approached carefully, his sensors still recording everything. "That was amazing, Sensei," the cyborg said. "You demonstrated superior combat efficiency against an opponent with multiple force multiplication techniques." "It was fun," Saitama said. Then looking at Goku, "You held back the whole time though, right?" "You've got more transformations you didn't use." "Yeah," Goku admitted. "The strongest ones would have destroyed everything around us. Plus, I'm still tired from that earlier fight. Didn't want to push it too hard." "Makes sense." Saitama started walking back toward his apartment. "Come back when you're recovered. We can spar for real then. I want to see those other transformations." "Definitely," Goku called after him. "This was great. You're one of the strongest people I've ever fought." Saitama waved without turning around. Yeah. Don't forget to help pay for the park repairs. Hero Association makes you split the cost." As the bald man disappeared into his building, Goku turned to Genos with an expression of pure joy. "He's perfect. Did you see how he moved, how he blocked? It was like fighting a mirror that only reflected the most efficient version of every technique." "Sensei is unmatched," Genos agreed. "But you are also formidable subject, Goku. A match between you at full power would be concerning for local property values." "We'd have to go to space, probably," Goku said, already planning it out in his head. "Or find an empty planet. Somewhere we could really let loose." He looked up at the sky, still grinning. This universe was amazing. Astraloid had been a great warm-up, and now he'd found someone who might actually give him the kind of fight he'd been searching for. Someone who could push him past his limits. He couldn't wait. But first, he needed to finish recovering, and probably apologize to the Hero Association for the park damage, and figure out when Whis was coming to pick him up. So many things to do. Such an exciting universe to do them in. Goku stretched, working out the last kinks from the sparring session, and headed back toward Hero Association headquarters. Behind him, the ruined park bore silent witness to an encounter between two beings who operated on a level most of the universe couldn't comprehend. And in a distant dimension, watching through his staff, Whis smiled. The time was approaching. But not quite yet. Let Goku enjoy himself just a little longer. After all, opportunities to find equals were rare even for a Saiyan. The dimensional rift opened at dawn, 3 days after Goku's sparring match with Saitama. It appeared without warning in the sky above Hero Association headquarters, a clean tear in reality that glowed with soft purple light. Unlike the chaotic rupture that had brought Goku to this world, this portal was controlled, deliberate. The mark of someone who understood dimensional travel on a fundamental level. Whis stepped through his staff, glowing, as he descended toward the building below. He looked exactly as composed as always. White hair perfectly styled, purple skin unmarred by any sign of stress. Only those who knew him well might notice the faint tightness around his eyes that suggested mild annoyance. "There you are," Whis said as he floated down to the rooftop where Goku was training. "I've been searching for you for 3 days. Do you have any idea how many universes I had to scan?" "Whis." Goku stopped mid-punch, his face lighting up with genuine happiness. "You found me. That's great. I was starting to worry I'd be stuck here forever. Not that it's a bad place to be stuck. Everyone's been really nice, and there are some seriously strong people here, but I do miss home and training with Vegeta and..." "Goku." Whis' voice cut through the rambling. "Breathe." Goku took a breath. "Better. Now then, shall we discuss how you managed to fall through a dimensional barrier that should have been theoretically impossible to breach by accident?" "I pushed a button," Goku admitted sheepishly. "Yes, I'm aware. I was there." Whis sighed, a sound of infinite patience, tested to its limits. "The repairs to my equipment will take months." Lord Beerus was quite upset when I informed him you disappeared into an unknown universe. He destroyed 3 planets out of frustration before I managed to calm him down. "Only 3? That's not so bad." "They were uninhabited, fortunately. I made sure of that before giving him the news." Whis looked around the rooftop, taking in the damaged city beyond. "This world has seen some excitement recently, I see." "Yeah, about that." Goku rubbed the back of his head. "A thing kind of followed me through the rift. Crystal monster that could absorb energy. Had to use Ultra Instinct to beat it. Sorry about the damage." "A thing followed you," Whis repeated flatly. "Of course it did. Because a simple accident would be too straightforward." Before Goku could respond, the rooftop access door burst open. Genos emerged, followed by Tatsumaki, Bang, and several other S-class heroes who'd been summoned when the portal appeared. They'd assumed it was another threat. Instead, they found Goku talking to what appeared to be some kind of purple alien in formal attire. Goku, Genos, said his targeting systems already analyzing the newcomer and returning deeply concerning results. "Is this entity hostile?" "What? No. This was my teacher. He's here to take me home." Goku turned back to the angel. "These are the heroes I told you about. They helped fight the crystal thing. Well, tried to help. Was kinda too strong for them, but they evacuated all the civilians and set up barriers and stuff. They're really good at teamwork." "Charmed," Whis said politely, giving a small bow. His eyes swept across the assembled heroes, analyzing each one with the casual efficiency of someone who'd evaluated countless beings across multiple universes. "You have my thanks for assisting this troublesome student of mine. Your student caused significant property damage and civilian casualties," Tatsumaki said bluntly. "He also saved the city from total annihilation. We're calling it even, but barely. That sounds like Goku, Whis agreed, causing problems and solving them in equal measure. It's practically his signature move at this point. Bang stepped forward, his old eyes studying Whis with the careful attention of a martial artist, recognizing something beyond his comprehension. You're his teacher, the one who taught him that technique. Ultra instinct. Yes, I provided the basic instruction. Though Goku achieved the mastery himself through rather desperate circumstances. Whis tapped his staff on the ground. It's not something that can be taught easily. The body must learn to bypass the mind's interference. Most beings never achieve it. Sensei could probably do it, Genos observed. He already demonstrates autonomous combat response patterns. Sensei, Whis' eyebrow arched. You're referring to someone specific, Saitama. Goku said, unable to contain his enthusiasm. He's this guy who's really strong, like really, really strong. We sparred and I couldn't land a hit on him even when I went Super Saiyan. He's amazing. Whis' expression shifted to something that might have been genuine interest. Is that so? I would very much like to meet this individual. As if summoned by the mention of his name, the rooftop door opened again. Saitama walked through wearing his hero costume and looking mildly confused about why he'd been called to headquarters so early in the morning. Did someone say there was a sale? He asked, looking around at the assembled heroes. Then, he noticed the portal. Oh, is that the space hole thing Genos mentioned? Whis turned to look at Saitama. For a long moment, neither moved. The angel's eyes widened fractionally, the only sign of surprise he'd shown since arriving. Goku watched eagerly curious what his teacher would make of the bald hero. Fascinating, Whis murmured. I have never encountered anything quite like you. I get that a lot, Saitama said. Usually right before someone tries to fight me. Oh, I have no intention of fighting. I'm merely observing. Whis walked in a slow circle around Saitama, his staff tapping against the rooftop. Your power is unlike anything in Universe 7. It doesn't follow conventional energy patterns. It simply exists like a natural law given physical form. How extraordinary. That's a fancy way of saying I'm strong, I guess. Saitama scratched his head. Are you here to take Goku back? He mentioned he wasn't from around here. Indeed, the portal is already prepared. Whis gestured to the rift hanging in the sky. Though I must say, this universe has proven quite interesting. More interesting than I anticipated when I set out to retrieve my wayward student. It's been fun, Goku said, and meant it. He looked at the assembled heroes at Genos, with his serious expression and constant analysis at Tatsumaki, floating with her arms crossed, and her usual scowl at Bang, with his knowing smile at King, who'd arrived late and was trying to hide in the back. You guys are all really strong. I learned a lot fighting here. Will you return? Genos asked. The question held more weight than it should have. In 3 days, the cyborg had filled 17 notebooks with combat analysis based on observing Goku. The data was invaluable, but more than that, he'd found the Saiyan's straightforward approach to combat refreshing. I don't know if I can, Goku admitted. The portal was kind of an accident. But if I figure out a way, yeah, definitely. There's still so many people I want to fight here. You're always welcome, Bang said. Though perhaps next time try not to bring any interdimensional entities with you. I'll try, Goku promised, grinning. Then he looked at Saitama. And you. Next time I come back, we should fight for real. Not holding back. Find some empty space where we can really let loose. Sure, Saitama said, with his usual lack of enthusiasm. But there was something in his eyes, that tiny spark of interest Goku had noticed during their spar. Could be fun. I haven't had a good fight in a while. Whis cleared his throat. As touching as this as Lord Beerus is expecting us, we should depart before he decides to come looking himself. Right? Goku turned back to the angel. Just one more thing. Whis, can you sense Saitama? Like actually sense how strong he is? Whis regarded Saitama thoughtfully. I can sense that he exists. I can observe that he possesses remarkable power. But measuring that power, he smiled slightly. It's like trying to measure infinity. The tools aren't adequate for the task. That's what I thought, Goku said, satisfied. He's special, isn't he? Very much so. Whis looked directly at Saitama, and for just a moment something passed between them. Understanding, perhaps? Recognition. One being who existed beyond normal parameters, acknowledging another. Young man, in universes beyond this one, there are individuals who would find you quite fascinating. Gods who would want to test themselves against you. Beings who collect strong warriors like children collect toys. That sounds annoying, Saitama said. It is, Whis agreed, which is why I'm not extending any invitations. But know that you are unique, even by multiversal standards. Hold on to that. Saitama shrugged. Okay. Goku laughed. Of course, Saitama would react to being called multiversally unique with a shrug and an okay. It was the most Saitama response possible. All right, Goku said, walking toward the portal. Thanks, everyone, for everything. You made this accident a lot more fun than it could have been. Try not to push any more mysterious buttons, Tatsumaki called out. No promises. Whis rose into the air, his staff glowing. Come along, Goku, and try not to fall through any more dimensional rifts on the way back. I've already repaired the passage to be stable, but knowing you, you'd find a way to complicate things. That only happened once, Goku protested as he lifted off the rooftop. Well, okay twice if you count that time with the time ring, but this time was different. The two of them ascended toward the portal, leaving the assembled heroes watching from below. Genos was already recording final observations. Tatsumaki looked annoyed, but grudgingly respectful. Bang smiled his knowing smile. King was just relieved nothing had exploded. And Saitama stood there, hands in his pockets, watching the portal with that same bored expression he wore for everything. Goku paused just before entering the rift. He looked back one final time, imprinting the sight in his memory. This weird, wonderful universe, where a bald man in a yellow suit might be the strongest thing he'd ever encountered. Where heroes worked together to protect civilians. Where even after bringing an interdimensional threat, they'd still accepted him. I'll be back, he shouted down. I promise. Then he and Whis disappeared through the portal. The rift closed behind them with a soft sound, like reality healing itself. The purple light faded. The sky returned to its normal state, showing only clouds and the rising sun. For a moment, the rooftop was silent. Well, Bang said eventually. That was certainly eventful. Sensei, Genos turned to Saitama. Do you believe he will return as promised? Maybe, Saitama said. He seemed pretty excited about fighting. Guys like that usually keep their promises about that stuff. He started walking toward the rooftop exit. I'm going home. There's a sale at the supermarket this afternoon. The multiversal entity said you were unique, Genos called after him. That even gods would want to test themselves against you. Yeah, I heard. Saitama paused at the doorway. Sounds like a pain. I'm just a hero for fun. He disappeared into the building, his footsteps echoing down the stairwell. The remaining heroes began to disperse, returning to their duties, their lives, their constant battle against monsters and threats. Another crisis averted. Another strange occurrence added to the increasingly bizarre history of their world. In his apartment, Saitama set about his daily routine: shopping list, coupon checking, meditation on the extreme mundanity of his existence. Outside his window, the city continued its repairs from the recent battle. Life went on. But sometimes when he looked at the sky, he thought about that Saiyan in the orange outfit, about power that kept transforming, kept growing, kept pushing forward, about the promise to return for a real fight. And for the briefest moment, Saitama felt something he rarely felt anymore: anticipation. Meanwhile, in Universe 7, Goku was already telling Vegeta all about the bald hero who might actually be a challenge. The Saiyan Prince listened with growing irritation that anyone would dare claim to be Goku's equal, already planning how to access this other universe to prove Vegeta was stronger. Beerus heard the story and decided that perhaps he'd visit this universe himself someday, after a long nap, and after Whis fixed his equipment, and maybe after a few thousand years, when the idea seemed less like effort. Whis simply smiled, made notes in his staff's dimensional log, and filed away the information about a universe where a man had broken his limiter through sheer determination and 100 push-ups. It was data too interesting to ignore, too unique to forget. The multiverse was vast. Universes overlapped in strange ways. And sometimes, just sometimes, the impossible became possible. Like a Saiyan, falling into the wrong universe and finding equals in the most unexpected places. This particular story had ended. But in the infinite expanse of reality, it was also just beginning. Somewhere in the space between worlds, the threads of possibility waited for the next accident, the next portal, the next time Goku pushed a button he shouldn't. After all, infinity was patient, and Saiyans were predictable. It was only a matter of time.